Hi loves, welcome back to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to make this beautiful piece. To subscribe to the channel, share to friends. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell for more interesting videos. Thank you so much and leave your suggestions in the comment section. Now is our front piece, but because our front piece is going to be having a slit, okay, we'll go ahead and mark our slit line first. So I'm going to be working with 1.5 inches for our slits. So we'll go ahead and mark 1.5. So having done this now, this is what we have. Then we'll mark the full length of our gown. So I'm going to be working with about 48 to 47 inches long, including my seam allowance. Okay, I'm working with 48 inches, including the seam allowance. And the half length of the gown I'm working with is 16 inches. So this is where my 16 inches falls. So from here to 48 inches. So at this point now, this is I'm going to insert my waist measurement. So this is now my center point. My waist is 7 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Okay. Then from this point now where the waist is, I'm going to come down to 9 inches. That is where I'm going to insert my hip measurement. So the hip measurement I'm working with is 9.5 inches plus 2 inches seam allowance. So now, alright. So having done this now, I'll connect these two together. So this is what I have. Then from there, I'm going to cut, trace it down to the bottom of my skirt, which is this way. Okay, so now we're going to cut this out, then use this to cut out our back piece. All right. So guys, for my back piece, I'm gonna have to fold my fabric into two again, and I'm going to bring my front piece, place it on top of it. Okay, since we use 1.5 inches for the slit in front, and our zipper allowance is also going to be 1.5 inches, so there's no need of stressing it. So what I'm going to do is just to cut it out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece out this way. So our front piece and our back piece are just the same thing. So I'm going ahead to cut this out now. So after doing this, I'll notch the center of my back piece and the center of my front piece. So this is the center. Then I'll slit the two of them open. So the next thing I'm going to proceed now to cut out is my lining for each piece. So this is what we have for our skirt piece. So to cut out our upper back. All right, we're going to be having a zipper allowance at our back piece, so I'm going to head to mark 1.5 inches first. All right, then from here now I'm going to mark my half length. So the half length you're working with remains 16 inches plus half an inch, making it 16.5 inches. All right, so this is our shoulder line. We insert our shoulder, which is 8 inches. From there we'll come down to 1 inch for our shoulder slope. Then the neck width we are working with is 3 inches. So now I'm going to connect these 3 inches to my 1 inch shoulder slope, which is here. Then from this shoulder slope now I'm going to insert my armhole measurement, which is your bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. All right, so this is where it lies, and this is also going to be serving as our chest line. Okay, so divide what you have here, the 7.5 into 2, 3 3/4, which is here. Place your tape back with your shoulder measurements, come in by half an inch. From the shoulder slope you connect to the half an inch. Then on this chest line you insert your bust measurement, which is 8.5. Okay, mine is 8.5, it depends on yours. Now you curve it into the line this way. All right, so at this point now I'm going to insert my bust measurement. Okay, we have inserted it already, 8.5 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Then here is going to be our waistline, 7 inches plus 2 inches seam allowance. Now I'm going to connect the lines to the dots together. That's the bust and the waist. This is what we have. Now for the neck depth, we are going to be working with 2 inches for our neck depth, which is here. Then connect it to your neck width. So this is what we have. Please mind you, this is our zip allowance, solution for our zip allowance. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So this is what we have. We'll go ahead also and slit it open. And notch it. Okay, upper piece is going to be a princess that is for our front piece. Now I'm going to mark my half length, which is 16.5 inches. So this is where it goes. So now on this start line I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. Then come down to 1 inch for our shoulder slope. Then for our neck width you're going to be working with 3 inches neck width. Then connect these two together. Having done this now, the next thing to mark is our armhole measurement. So I'm going to divide my bust by 6, add 1.5 to it to get my chest line stroke armhole measurement. So this is what I have. Then at this point now I'm going to also mark my shoulder measurement there. So this is my chest line, C. All right, then to get our armhole curve, what we're going to do is you're going to divide our armhole measurements into 2. Then we'll come in by half an inch from that point. On the chest line we put our bust measurement, then connect it. So this is what we have. Okay, having done this now, the next thing I'm going to do is from my shoulder line I'm going to mark my bust points, which is at 10 inches, then my under bust, which is at 13 inches. Then I'm going to make a rule across. So this is what I have. Then the next thing I'm going to be marking is my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. Then I'm going to connect it using a rule. The thing we are going to do now is on this under bust and on the waistline, we're going to be marking 2 inches on both sides of it, like here 2 inches, here 2 inches. So the next thing we're going to do now is we are going to be marking 2 inches on our under bust. This is our under bust U, and this is our waist stroke half length. We're going to mark 2 inches here and also 2 inches on our waist. All right, then we'll connect the 2 points together. Right, having done this now, we're going to be connecting our bust point, which is B, to our under bust. So now I'm going to be working with my curved rule. So this is what I have. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is, this is where my half of my armhole lies. All right, oh sorry, please describe this first on my mark. So now I'm going to connect from this point now to my bust points. We are trying to create our princess dart. So this is what we have. Okay, go in and blend this place up so it will not be very sharp. All right, so now we're going to be marking our waist measurement. So waist measurement is 7 inches. Then remember, we have removed 2 inches here. We're going to be adding it back plus 1 inch seam allowance for it, stitching allowance, then 2 inches for our actual seam allowance. We'll come to our bust measurements. All right, insert our bust measurements, which is 8.5 here. Then whichever measurement I have here, I'm also going to be putting it in here. So I have about 5 inches, that is 3 plus 2. I'm going to go ahead and insert it back to this point. Now I'm going to connect the 2 points together. So this is what our princess dart is going to look like. But because you want to avoid bulge at this area, at this armhole area, what we're going to do is you're going to mark half an inch on both sides of our line. This is for our dart. We are trying to shape our dart intake for our armhole area to avoid bulging or puffness. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. So having done this now, we have removed 1 inch. We're going to be adding it back to this point. So this 1 inch here, we're going to be adding it back plus half an inch stitching allowance, or you can decide to just add 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and extend this line this way. From there, I'm going to mark my 1 inch, then recreate my new armhole. So this is my new armhole. Okay, then for our neck depth, we're going to be working with 3.5 inches neck depth. Then I'm going to connect it to my neck width. So this is what we have. Then we'll go ahead and cut this piece out. So let's cut this out together, starting with the neck part first. Then from this point, I'm going to be cutting off this area. this is what we have. Then I'm going to cut this. And the next thing to do is to cut out this part. Having done this now, I'm going to transfer this to my fabric. Okay. First thing we'll be cutting out is the sleeve. I'm going to be working with 18 inches, and we're going to also be having a band at the bottom of our sleeve. So this is my 18 inches, which is here. Okay, I folded my fabric into two. Now from this point now, I'm going to come down to about 4 inches, which is here. Okay, so I'm marking 4 inches again. Then from this 4 inches, I'm going to come down to about 3 inches. So I have 18. In that 18, I came down to 4, 3. All right. So now, watch what I'm going to do. At this point where I mark 3 inches, I'm going to insert my bust measurement, which is 8.5. Then I'm going to go ahead and mark about 5 inches. All right. Now, from here now, I'm going to be having an upper casing of the sleeve. So this is what the sleeve is going to look like from this point now. Then from this area, I'm going to go inwards, because we are going to be having a pleat at the shoulder area, all right, at the armhole area. So that's why the sleeve came up this way. So this is what I'm going to have. Then this point now, I'm going to mark my round ankle, like this area, my elbow measurements, what I have there. I have about 12 to 14 inches, which is here. Then I'm going to be adding extra 5 inches to it. You can decide to add more if you want it to be more puffy. You go ahead and add more. Like here now, we added extra 5 inches. You can decide to add more 10 inches depending on how full you want your pleats to be. So instead of adding 5 inches here, we'll go ahead and add 10 inches. If you want your pleats to be small, fine, you add only 5 inches. But if you want it to be more fuller, you add 10 inches. All right, the same thing here. So I'm going to be working with 10 inches on both. So having done it now, I'm going to connect the rows together. So this is what the sleeve is looking like. Okay, so I added extra 10 inches to mine. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out. So this is what it's going to look like. Then I'll notch the center. So this is my front piece. I've gone ahead to transfer it to my fabric and also cut out my breast pad. You can decide to work with a breast cup at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and join the pieces together. At this point, I'm done joining my pieces together, the front piece together, and this is what it looks like. Okay, this is what the inside looks like. This is the outside. Now I'm going to be turning it out with my lining piece. Okay, I'm going ahead to do the same thing to my lining piece. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my neck area and the two sides. Okay, I'm not going to be touching the shoulder and the armhole. So guys, this is for my skirt piece for the front part. I've gone ahead to turn it out with a lining, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to join these two pieces together. All right, so I'm going to hold it in this way. All right, But before we start stitching, we have to mark where our slit is going to stop. Okay, so now the choice is yours. Where do you want your slit to be? So mine is going to be either on my new length, or maybe an inch below my new length, or 2 inches before my new length. All right. So the first thing I'm have to do is to place my tape at 16 inches. Remember, our half length is 16 inches. Then from there, I will determine where my new length is going to be. So my new should be at 36 inches, which is here. Okay. Now, my own gown is not that long, like what we have in the picture. Okay, so it's your choice to make it more longer if you want your gown to be more longer. All right. So mine is at 36, which is stopping here. Then we're going to be marking 1.25 inches. Remember, we used 1.5 inches for our slit opening, but now we have joined our lining. So let's assume we worked with 1/4 inch to stitch, so we have 1.25 inches left. So this is what I have. Now I'm going to run a stitch here, and at this point, when I get to this point, I will have to knot it. All right, so that's what I'm going to go ahead to do now. So when I'm done with the slit, this is what I have. Now I'm going to go ahead and press open this slit of mine. Okay, then I'm going to be attaching a hemming gum at this area to hold it down, to hold my slits in place. So that's what I'm going to go over to do now. For my back pieces, I'm also gonna ahead to turn it out with my lining, and this is what we have. All right, this is for the skirt parts, the down, and this for the upper parts of our gown. Now I'm going to be joining the two together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and join them together. When I'm done joining them together, we'll talk about what next. So guys, next thing I'm going to go ahead and mark is where my zip is going to be. This is for our back piece. I've joined the two pieces together, so we're going to be marking where our zip will stop. All right, so this is where our zip will be. Then the next thing is our dart intake. Okay, so I'm going to be marking where my zip allowance is, where we're picking our zip allowance from. So this is what we have, 1.25 for our zip. Then our dart intake is going to be our bust panel, which is 4 inches, our nipple to nipple. Okay, that is the width of our dart is going to be 4 inches. Then we place our tape back to our shoulder line, and our dart is going to be starting from 1 inch below our chest line, and 1 inch below our chest line is 9.5 inches. So from our 9.5 inches, our dart will stop at 21 inches. So this I did here, I also do it to the other side of the gown, which is this part. Okay, so guys, at this point now, I've gone ahead to iron my slits. This is for my front piece. I'm gonna ahead to iron it down. This is what I have. This is what the slit is looking like. Okay, remember I inserted a hemming gum in between. So this is what I have. This is the back, and this is the front. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, mind if you want your slit to still go up, the choice is yours. You can still decide to go up with your slit. It's totally fine. So now I'm going to be joining my upper parts to these skirt parts of my gown. So I'll go ahead and run a stitch on it, center to center. Okay, if I'm done with it, I'll now join my two shoulders together. That is the back shoulder and this front shoulder together. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to shape my dress. I'm gonna have to join my two shoulders together. Now at this point, you can decide to attach your sleeve first, okay? But I want to shape my dress before attaching my sleeve. All right. So I've marked my shape line. I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch on my shape line, okay? But I'm not going to close up this sleeve area. When I get to this armhole area, maybe I'll leave 1 inch or 1.5 inches. All right, after joining my sleeve, I will now close it up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shape my dress now. Guys, the next thing I'm going ahead now to cut out is the band that is going to be on our sleeve. So go ahead and measure what you have around your elbow line, like this area. Go ahead and measure it. So whatever you have, you place it this way. Please, it's on a fold of 2. Okay, so I have about 12 inches there, so I'm going to be adding extra 1 inch to it, making it 13 inches, and I'm going to cut it out. So at this point I'm cutting it out. So guys, now this is our band. The next thing we're going to be doing is to attach it to our sleeve. Okay, so this is my sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and pleat this sleeve on this band. Okay, so now you can decide to cut out a lining for your piece. Okay, turn it out to a lining to make it more puffy, which is totally fine, but I'm not using a lining for this. So we'll go ahead to our sewing machine now. Place this way, make a pleat on it, or you can decide to make a gathers. Okay, but I'm going to be making a pleat to mine. So guys, I'm done shaping my dress, and this is my sleeve. I'm also gonna ahead to attach it to the band to the sleeve. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and join my sleeve to my armhole area. So I'm going to get the center point of my shoulder, which is here, and the center of my sleeve, which is here. Now I'm going to be making a pleat round this armhole area. When I'm done, I'll close it up. Okay,